What is going on, guys? My name is Lextasy and welcome back to the channel. And today we're going to talk about a topic that I wish somebody would have posted a video on before I bought my 2019 Nissan GTR Track Edition. And that is the things you need to know before you purchase or start modding your Godzilla. Let's get started because I have so much to go over with you. Before I even start this video, huge shout out to Foss for the comment that you left me on the last video, and you were absolutely right. My whole issue with the keyless entry not working, with the trunk not opening from the remote, was because this freaking ECU tech plugged into my LBD2, which is the reason I have it is for the launch control to be able to adjust and read the data and everything real time. But turns out it actually messes with the frequency and your remote will not work. So huge shout out to you. I would have never even thought about checking that. I was trying to go to dealership trying to get the warranty to cover it. There's nothing to cover. I just had to unplug this and it works flawlessly now. And if you clicked on this video, you definitely made the right choice, because after you watch it all the way through, there's no chance of you saying, I wish I knew this before I bought it, or hitting your head against the door, because I'm going to go over everything and every detail of what you need to expect and what you need to plan for before you buy one of these GTRs. And by the way, if you like what you're seeing, make sure you drop a like and subscription. It means so much to me, guys, and it gives me that motivation to keep putting out crazy content and staying energetic, because this takes a lot of effort. Today I want to talk about three different things when it comes to buying one of these GTRs that I honestly wish I knew. First off, of course, is the things you need to know before you purchase one or you put your even first mod on this car. Secondly, I want to go over everything that's been done to my car and all the issues that I've had in the last 6 months of owning it. I'm only going to focus on the performance parts of things. If you want to see all the cosmetic and all the aesthetic things I've had issues with that are under Nissan warranty and some haven't been under Nissan warranty, I am going to put a link at the bottom for you to click on. Check it out, guys. Seriously, before you buy one of these, you need to know this stuff, because I wish I did. And the final thing I'm going to talk about is I'm going to give you my personal opinion of what I think of these Nissan GTRs. I've owned this one for about 6 months to 10,000 miles or so, and I've been through a lot already in those 6 months. So I feel like I know what I'm talking about, so I'll share that with you guys. You may not agree with me, but I feel like most likely you will, especially if you own one already. Alright, guys, and the first thing on my list of things you need to know before you mod your GTR is, don't you ever, for the love of God, don't ever cheap out on parts on these cars. Yes, I know there's a lot of things available on eBay, from mid pipes, down pipes, cab exhaust to intakes. Everything you can think of is on there for dirt cheap, but it's cheap for a reason, because the quality, the reliability, and of course the fitment is horrible on those parts. I made a mistake when I bought this car thinking I could get away with getting a cab exhaust for $1,000 because it was some top speed, no, not the top speed you're thinking of, it was some Chinese aftermarket catback exhaust, and it sucks. The fitment is horrible. To make this titanium looking exhaust or muffler, whatever it is, in the center fit, there's a lot of things that we'll have to cut down, a lot of plates that would take off, just a lot of drilling that we had to do that you should never really have to do on the car like this. And the thing is, when I started using more higher end parts like the mid pipe and down pipes, it actually caused an issue with how it fit with those two parts. Oh, by the way, guys, for anybody that owns a 2018 and newer GTR, you need to know that there's an exhaust valve right in the catback exhaust system itself that comes standard from OEM factory. If you, and you will have to, remove that valve whenever you put a catback exhaust, doesn't matter what brand, they all get rid of that valve, you are completely going to go into limp mode. So something to keep in mind. Limp mode is something we're going to talk about in the future, but yeah, so don't think you could just slap on a catback exhaust and start driving this the same day, because that was a lesson I had to learn, and the car was down for a little while. The three brands that I would really recommend for you guys to stick to when it comes to the reliability and dependability and having a good fitment on these cars is the ETS, the AMS, and of course some of the Boost Logic parts as well. Now this is my opinion, so I don't want to get bashed about it. I know you guys have used different parts, but if you want it to last, if you want it to sound good, and just overall quality of the finish, those are the three different brands that I would go with. And the next thing I want to talk about, guys, is if you think you can get one of these cars to 1,000 wheel horsepower for the same price as you can on a Dodge or a Ford or a Chevy, you have completely lost your mind. And I wish I did my research, which I completely didn't do any of it. I just went ahead and bought the GTR because, well, I watched videos where GTR can take down a underground Lamborghini or literally destroy everything on the roads. My buddy Fahad actually has one as well. They were shooting 3-foot flames and made my 650 horsepower Mustang look like it was standing still. It was a straight bully on the road. But here's the thing, to do 1,000 wheel horsepower in a car like this, you're talking minimum, and I mean on the luckiest day of your life, maybe $60,000 to get it there. But let's say you just want to do some full bolt-ons just to get it to somewhat, you know, keep up with other fast cars. So for example, it would take, with intake, mid pipe, down pipe, and of course the catback exhaust, injectors, and the cost of doing that is about $7,000, and it only gets you to about 600 wheel and about 600 torque, which is insane because $7,000 on a Dodge Charger Hellcat get you to over 800 wheel. On a Mustang, definitely gets you to 700 wheel. I mean, it's insane how little it seems like that actually gets done on the GTR. But here's something to keep in mind. 600 wheel horsepower on the GTR is about the same as a 700, 720 wheel horsepower Hellcat. So it does kind of make sense. But it's just, whenever you put into the wheel horsepower compared to the money you're spending on it, it just doesn't seem like it adds up. Now here's something else to keep in mind. These cars from factory, the transmissions can only hold maximum about 650 torque. So it's not the horsepower that you really have to worry about on these cars as much as torque itself. Because think about it, this all-wheel drive system is under so much stress that you have to build the transmission to get it to hold that. So to get the transmission to about 1,000 wheel horsepower, you're talking about $15,000 to $20,000 in rebuilding the transmission, which is insane. So all this is adding up quickly. So the next step will be doing the turbos, the intercooler, and of course E85. So that alone will get you to about 800 to 850 wheel horsepower and about 650 torque, which is the maximum you want to put on these cars. But now on top of the $7,000 you just spent on full bolt-ons, you're talking about another $12,000 that you have to spend on it. So now we're almost at $20,000 to get this car to 800 to 850 wheel and about 650 torque, which is insane. But again, something to keep in mind, 850 wheel horsepower and about 650 torque on a GTR is completely different than on any other car. I mean, you're talking probably close to 1,000 wheel horsepower on Hellcats and Camaros and things like that. So they are dig monsters. I mean, that's what they're designed for. They're roll monsters as well. They can handle anything you throw at them, but you have to be ready to spend big money to make it happen. So let's say you're at a dealership looking at an 09 GTR, which by the way, I hope none of you guys are buying unless they have the transmission fixed already, because those have major transmission issues. But let's say it's a 2010 or newer, or in this case a 2019, and you're about to purchase it. Make sure that you have at least $10,000 in the bank account sitting there ready for the repairs, because these suckers will break, and they will break hard on you. And I mean hard as in expensive. Very expensive. I mean, every tuner I've talked to, every person that has owned their GTRs more than I have, has already asked me a few times if I have that in my bank account. Because if a transmission goes out, like I said, my stock transmission can hold about 600 to 650 torque. I'm at 600 right now, and I abuse this car almost every day. So I pretty much should be ready for that transmission to go. It's not if, but when. Now, of course, unless your GTR is a garage queen and you never drive it and you never plan on doing any full bolt-ons on it, you probably have nothing to worry about, because from factory, they're pretty reliable. But if you bought a GTR just for it to sit in the garage and save it for the next person, there's no point of you even having that car. So you should probably sell it. But in my case, where I use it literally every day, it's always on the drag strip almost every week, or it's being raced on the street. I mean, I'm always using this car, so I'm pretty much planning to have this thing break on me pretty soon. And the next thing on my list, guys, is if you are finally ready to tune this car, you're finally to drop some money on it and make it faster than it already is, make sure you go to an experienced and reliable and dependable tuning shop. There's a few that I know in this area. One is, of course, Top Speed Motorsports, but I think they're renamed to Sissio Performance. The one I personally use is called Force Performance out of Marietta, Georgia. Sharif is the man to go to. That guy is awesome. He's always on the line, ready to help me, especially with all my limp mode issues that I'm having. And most of the limp mode issues, of course, is my fault, because I've used these cars on a daily basis, and it's still putting up with this somehow, but he's always there to answer questions. They know exactly what they're talking about. They're building some of the fastest cars out there right now for the GTR World Cup. They even have a car in there that runs less than a second 0 to 60 time. I mean, that's insane. I don't even know what the G-force is like in that car, but they absolutely know what they're talking about. Make sure to tell them Lextasy sent you, and no, I'm not getting paid for that. I'm just saying I highly recommend them. They've always been there for me for the last 6 months. They've sent me files in the middle of the night, and no, I'm not telling you to bother Sharif at 12 o'clock at night for a file or if you're having issues, but all I'm saying is those guys are awesome, easy to deal with, super down to earth, and they're always there for me. All right, and the final thing on the things you need to know before you purchase your GTR is limp mode is a curse and a blessing on these cars. Limp mode is literally almost always there to save your butt whenever you're having issues with it. And it sucks when it happens, but you absolutely want it to happen, because that means it just saved your car, your transmission, your engine from exploding. In my case, the first time I ever met limp mode is whenever I put this aftermarket little Chinese cheap catback exhaust on here that looks all nice. So on the 2018 and newer GTRs, we actually have a little button we can press to open those valves, which I wish my salesperson knew before they sold me this car. But that valve regulates the exhaust flow, of course. So the more you're on the throttle, the more you want the exhaust to be able to leave the car quicker. So it just gives it more performance. Well, When I put this catback exhaust on here aftermarket, there is no place to put that valve back in. So me and my buddies are doing this install like 2 o'clock at night because I have a GTR car meet that I want to go to 4 hours away the next day with the family. And so we realized, you know what, this block has nowhere to go. By the way, that valve is $3,200. So make sure you don't lose it if you do take it off. But anyway, so we realized there's nowhere to put this back in. So I'm texting Sharif at 2 o'clock at night. I'm like, hey man, what do I do? I put this stock exhaust back on, which took me hours and hours to install because the fitment was horrible. And he says, hey man, I honestly would not recommend you run it this way right now, man. Yes, you should definitely put your stock exhaust back on. And of course I didn't do that. I mean, why would I listen to my tuner, the guy that's been doing this for probably 20 or 30 years? So I'm like, nah man, it's fine. So we continue the installation. We mount everything back on, all the plastics, everything. I start the car and I see this really nice little yellow light come on. I'm thinking that's weird. So I give it a little gas. Seems like everything is working fine. So we get it off the lift. Actually, we did it right in here. And thanks to my buddy Michael for providing me the lift to be able to do this video. But we get it off the lift and I start driving it down the road. And the first thing I noticed is this car has completely no power. And I'm talking, I could barely get it up to 30 miles per hour. If I try to get it to 60, it literally takes minutes to do that. So I texted him, I'm like, hey man, this car literally has no power. It does not want to drive and there's some yellow light on. I said, oh, you mean limp mode? The one that I told you might not want to mess with just yet unless you're ready to tune. But anyways, long story short, that's what that was. Limp mode will prevent you. It's like a fail-safe mode that stops anything else from going wrong. I've experienced it a few times, especially when I've overheated the clutch as well. So whenever that happens, it's the same thing, goes into limp mode, but it's letting the clutch cool off so you don't explode that thing or damage anything else. So totally makes sense, but it's a good thing we have them. But it's just, this car is so sensitive. There's so many sensors on it. So when I went to the Fayetteville GTR event, out of the 25 GTRs that were there, 5 or 6, maybe even 7 of them seen limp modes. I mean, you could see them because they'll take off and then the car will completely cut off and they're just limping their way across the drag strip. It sucks, but there's just so much going on inside that car with all the sensors and all the electronic equipment these days. It's just, it wants to make sure the car lasts because I don't want to replace a $20,000 engine or a $14,000 or $18,000 transmission in it either. So I totally understand. But if you are looking to buy your car and you do experience limp mode, don't panic. Just let your tuner handle it. Send him the file and he'll figure out exactly what's going on with it and be happy that that light came on. All right, and now it's the fun part for me, guys. I get to talk about exactly what's done to my car. So first thing, of course, that I installed was the Top Speed V1 or R1, whatever, catback exhaust. It's on eBay. It's like 800, 900 bucks right now. If you really try to cheap out, please don't put that thing on there. Don't, because whenever they installed the Boost Logic mid pipes, horrible fitment with it, and I think I have a slight exhaust leak. Not their fault. I just decided to cheap out. But once I installed that on there, it went to the limp mode. So once it went to the limp mode, I had to get it and go ahead and get it tuned. So I went through ECU Tech, which cost about $500 for the item itself, and I think $350 for the actually login key or the USB drive that they plug in. Now this was just a file tune to get me through the limp mode and be able to use it for the weekend. And I was supposed to go to Sharif for getting the actual tune done on the dyno. But it took me 4 months to get up there with everything going on in my life. So once I saved up enough money, the next step was, of course, to go to Sharif at Force Performance to get all the full bolt-on parts installed. So I had the ID 1050 injectors installed. I had the 3-inch Cobb intakes, huge intakes for great airflow. Then I had the AMS downpipes. And of course the Boost Logic mid pipe. So all the fitment was good. It was amazing. AMS, ETS, and Boost Logic, great products. But once they got on the dyno, they did an ECU tune and the transmission tune. You definitely want a transmission tune done, guys. So from factory, the clutch in these cars is designed to be smooth transition, even with that power and the all-wheel drive system. So it does well. But once you start putting full bolt-ons and going to 600 torque, you want that clutch to activate a lot quicker and shift through gears quicker. So there's less slippage and overheating problems. So yes, you will feel a little bit of a difference. It's a little bit more jerky shifting, especially if you put it in R mode, but it's a good thing. You do want that clutch to stay in there as long as possible, because I think an upgraded clutch is about $3,000 to $4,000, so it's a lot of money to spend on it, and you don't have to until you really start going up from there, like doing turbos and intercooler in the 85. All right, and the final thing I want to talk about, guys, by the way, if you made it through this whole video, thank you so much. Make sure you drop a like and subscription. But do I think I made the right choice buying a 2019 Nissan GTR? Yes, but I wish I did more research. I wish I went on different threads and pages and actually called the tuning shops like Force Performance and asked them how much it's going to take to get this thing over 650 wheel horsepower. it takes almost $20,000 to go above that, and it's insane. But at the same time, if you do end up putting that much money into it, it's a rocket. It's a complete rocket. It will destroy so much stuff on the road. It sounds amazing. There's no way to replicate this exhaust system or this sound coming out of the exhaust. And make sure you save up for a transmission. Please save up for a transmission, or else this thing's just going to be a monument in your garage or your parking lot. You're just going to look at it like a statue and not be able to drive it, because it takes a lot of money to keep these things going. Honestly, I love this car. I mean, it's made me happy so many times. I'm always smiling when I'm driving it. I love the exhaust that it has, that note coming out of it. And everybody knows what it is. It's an amazing car, you know, unless they're calling it a 370Z, then that kind of hurts my feelings. But yeah, guys, this was my little spiel as to what to expect when you buy a GTR. It doesn't matter what year it is. It costs about the same to get the work done. But I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, make sure you drop a like and subscription. This is fun. This is an awesome, fun car. I can't wait to do more work to it. I don't know how far I'm going to take this car. And keep in mind, at 10,000 subscribers, I am going to wrap it whatever color, design, graphic you guys choose. So I'll give you a few options and we'll look at them. But enjoy your lives, enjoy your cars, and I will see you guys next time. Peace.